What's up guys, Kennan here from Goldman Motor Sales, and today we are talking about one of my all-time favorite GT cars, the 2010 Ferrari 612 Scaglietti. Let's talk about how the Ferrari 612 pays homage to Ferrari history, beginning with the name, Scaglietti. Scaglietti pays tribute to Sergio Scaglietti and his company Carrozzeria Scaglietti, which produced bodies for Ferrari in the 1950s and 1960s. Cars like the 250 GTO and the 250 short wheelbase California. Kind of a good track record there as far as design goes. All of these bodies were hand-beaten aluminum, and that's what Sergio Scaglietti was so famous for. He rarely used measurements of any kind to design his bodies. Instead, he would sculpt the metal literally by hand and by hammer in order to make those beautiful designs. Another way the Ferrari 612 pays tribute to Ferrari is through its design. The shape of its headlights, the scallop design on the door, this all pays tribute to the 375mm originally commissioned for Ingrid Bergman in the 50s. It's a very subtle car. There's not a lot to this car that screams Ferrari. It's not like a modern Ferrari where there are a lot of aggressive angles and really spectacular looking just design elements. On this car, what you have is a more subtle design that really is the last truly elegant Ferrari to come from the company. Furthermore, with this car, it pays tribute to Ferrari by being produced in Carrozzeria Scaglietti's shop, near his own home. The bodies were made there, all of aluminum, and then they were transported to the Ferrari factory where they were mated with the engine and the gearbox. Speaking of aluminum, this is the first fully aluminum V12 Ferrari in the company's history, which is incredible to think. The first aluminum Ferrari was the 360, but this is the first fully aluminum V12 Ferrari to be produced in the company's history. Alright, so let's talk about the engine in this car. It's the most important part of any Ferrari. In this particular one, you find the 5.75 liter V12 originally found in the 575 Super in America. It produces 533 horsepower and 434 foot-pounds of torque. This allows the Ferrari 612 to achieve 60 in 4.2 seconds. And when you consider how huge this car is, that's quite an impressive feat. When you open the hood of this car, it's also clear to see that this car comes from the Luca di Montezemolo period of Ferrari. He was huge on engine presentation, so you don't see exposed wires or anything like that like you do with older Ferraris. He made sure that there were metal covers to cover everything, and frankly, it's a sight that you could look at all day. Okay, so let's talk about the party piece of the 612. So you get this elegant design, but the reason it's so long, because this car is huge, is that it's a 2+2. And when I say it's a 2+2, I don't mean it's a hypothetical 2+2. I mean you can fit 4 adults in this car comfortably. I'm 6 feet tall, so I will demonstrate to you with the driver's seat in my driving position that I can sit behind myself. Alright, so it's actually pretty easy to get in. All you do, you open the door, and then there's a silver switch. Lift up and pull forward. The seat will whir forward on its own electric motors, and then amazingly, you're actually able to step into the car, and I'm in. Which is an unusual thing in a Ferrari. So once you're in the back seat of a 612, it's a pretty unusual thing because it feels like a Ferrari and it looks like a Ferrari, but you're in the back seat. It has these scallops cut out of the back seat, so I actually do fit back here. My knees are slightly touching the seat, but I would honestly be very comfortable. These seats are sculpted nicely, so you do have pretty good back support and excellent bolster support. So I'm not pretending this is like, a Rolls Royce or anything back here, but I think for a decent sized journey, you'd be really comfortable. And the party piece with this one, when you look up, oh yeah, you have to have the panoramic roof. It is such a nice thing to see, and you get the best view of it from the back seat. And it's cool to see the reflection of the steering wheel and the vents and everything back here. Again, wouldn't want to be back here for a really, really long period of time. I think numb bum would start to set in. But you have a place to put your arm back here. The leather is just, the leather is amazing. You only have one vent back here to serve both passengers, so that is a very Ferrari touch. But it is comfortable to be back here. It is a true 2+2, unlike the 456 which came before it, which was a little bit cramped in the back. Let's be honest, even a car as nice as this in the rear, you want to be in the driver's seat of a Ferrari. And when you find yourself up here, The view is really nice. You get those nice pontoon fenders that you can see sticking out the front of the car. Just this really long, elegant hood, and that's what this car is all about, is elegance. I mean, it feels like a true Ferrari. Anybody who says the 612 isn't a true Ferrari just hasn't spent time with one, because it certainly is. In the later cars, you got the upgraded navigation system. The earlier ones had one that wasn't particularly great. It's the one that was on the earlier 599s, but this one's definitely a big upgrade, and the Bose sound does make a nice difference. It has a pretty good stereo, honestly, and that's what this car is about. This is not a sports Ferrari. This is not a car you take to the track. This is a continent crusher. So you take this on long drives, you know, literally across the continent. You take this to Verbier to go skiing, as I'm sure some people are familiar with.
Time is running out. We knew that we would lose the race.
Another great way to win the argument over whether or not this is a true Ferrari is to hear it. So let's take a little listen. Livable is sort of the design brief with this car. This is a Ferrari that was designed to be used and used frequently. As you can see, park distance control sensors are integrated, and I believe I'm right in saying this is the first Ferrari ever to be featured with one, or to ever be fitted with one of those. You could get a reverse camera on the 612, which is very useful because this car, again, is massive. So despite being a GT car, the boot is not horribly large. You do have a decent amount of room, though, to actually put, you know, squashy bags and that sort of thing in here, and I have no doubt that they would fit just fine. Then when you lift up this tray here, you actually have even more storage down there, so you can fit stuff in here. It's just not very deep, so that your passengers have as much room as possible. But make no mistake, I mean, you can still fit a decent amount of stuff in there to go on a nice weekend trip with this car. All right, so to sum up the Ferrari 612 then. It is a car that pays homage to Ferrari's history. It has a naturally aspirated front-engine V12. It can fit 4 actual adults comfortably, and it has the performance of, well, a Ferrari. This car presents a really compelling package. And to discover more on this one, head to marshallgoldman.com, where you can see all of our photos and list of options on this very nice 612. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.